Hi, everybody. It's Craig and Arun back with your college basketball March Madness kickoff day for Thursday's betting picks. We have all 16 games for you, and that's for March 19th. Hope everybody has had a good start with the play-in games on both Tuesday and Wednesday. We've been tearing it up here, and you can get in on our best bets. This is the time of year where it really pays off. Get the 2-for-1. You get us both for the price of one, just $99. You get the week pass, plus you get bonus for NBA plays for tonight. That's a $260 value for just $99. Text your name to my number right here, 574-333-8717, and you'll get all those plays for today. I'm going to have a 3-pack of college basketball, one top play. Included in that, I see I'll have one top play, plus then we'll both have an NBA play. So a total of 6 plays for tonight, and then, of course, 6 more days of college basketball. Okay, I see. Let's kick us off here for Thursday's action here.
We're going to kick off March Madness here. A couple things here. So TCU is about to hook up. It's going to be a great game, obviously, against Ohio State. You get the number 9 seed facing the number 8 seed at 12:15 in the afternoon. TCU comes in as a 2.5-point dog against Ohio State. You like?
Yeah, I did a full video, so if you want a little bigger breakdown, you can always click on it. I like TCU here. I think they actually should be favored. I think the Big 12 is going to do very well. I have 3, at least 2, if not 3 teams are going to make it to the Final Four from the Big 12. And I think TCU is a danger to win more than one game, FYI. Give me TCU plus the 2.5 in this one. Now, next game, the second early game, is Troy and Nebraska. Nebraska's favored by 13, total 138. For people who haven't seen Troy, this Troy team's pretty good. I think Nebraska better be on upset alert. What do you like?
Troy did beat, obviously Furman, who was another tournament team. They lost to USC by just 1 point on the road. They beat San Diego State on the road. They're going to give Nebraska some issues here. Fred Hoiberg, of course, has taken this team. They won the NIT last year. They've taken this team to the NCAA tournament. They're playing really well to close out last year. But I like the fact they lost to Purdue to opening round, only scoring 58 points. I think that's going to bode well for them. I like that this total came in at about 138 as well. Nebraska is a top 10 defense, right? And Troy, the one thing they do well is they play pretty decent defense. But I think that, Troy's the same team that lost at Texas State or Southern Miss or Appalachian State. And if you really take a look at Nebraska, when they face teams outside the top 200, they have no issues beating them by 15 points or more. I'm going to lay it here. I'm going to take Nebraska minus the 13 here. South Florida hooking up against Louisville. South Florida is a 4.5-point dog here against Louisville. 25-8, 23-10 teams hooking up here. These two teams haven't met since 2014. South Florida, huge win in their last contest, beating Wichita State. Louisville, of course, it's a coach that you know pretty well, coming in here with Coach Kelsey. Who do you like here? They're only a 4.5-point favorite here. Who do you like?
Yeah, I played basketball my whole life. They were the same age, graduated together with Kelsey. He went to the West Side Catholic School. I went to the East Side Catholic School. Faced off a lot growing up all the way through. Great guy, great family here in town. I kind of wish he would be at Cincinnati and not at Louisville, to be very honest, even though he's a Xavier guy, graduated from Xavier as a walk-on there. The one thing about Louisville, let's be honest, they did not finish strong. Big injury with Brown being out, their star freshman. It does sound like he'll be ready to go here. I don't know if he'll be 100%. And, boy, if you're not 100% against USF, Coach Hodgson, they will hand you your lunch because they play hard. They shoot it and go get it. It's kind of like the Bob Huggins teams back in the day. They just try to rebound all these offensive rebounds. That's their best offense. I think they beat up on Louisville here. Louisville might win, but I think it's going to be a really tight game. I'm taking South Florida plus the points in this one. High Point at Wisconsin, 150 start time here. Wisconsin's favored by 10, total 164. Of course, second year in a row this High Point team's in. But be careful. This is not a High Point team that has many returning players. And they don't even have the same coaches last year. They lost everybody. They're in again, but it's a pretty basically a brand new team.
Yeah, Coach Alan Huss of High Point, he coached them a couple of years, had them 27 and 29 wins, and now obviously Flynn Kaman has come in. High Point is a team that lost to UAB, who's outside the top 120 and 91-74. They did beat Furman this year. They have a great offense. They can be probably an active dog. What they do well is they have a top 70 offense, and they shoot the ball exceptionally well. They do have about 4 seniors coming in. Wisconsin, of course, top 15 offense, losing to Michigan by 3 points. But, man, did they close the year well. They won the last 5, including beating Illinois, Purdue, beating Illinois, Michigan State. In fact, they beat Illinois twice. They beat Michigan this year. They were fantastic. They only put up 65 points their last game. And with High Point's ability to shoot really well, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see this game go over the 164 between High Point and Wisconsin. I'm not going to mess with the side here. All right, Craig, let's talk about Siena hooking up against the Duke Blue Devils. 28.5-point dog here. Siena comes in facing Duke. This is interesting for a couple of reasons because Jerry McNamara is the coach of Siena, took a 14-win team now to 23 wins in his second year. This team did play Indiana early this year, and they lost by 21 points. And Duke, of course, comes in top 5 offense, top 3 defense. It's a team that rolled through, beating FSU, Clemson, and Virginia, the ACC title game. Who do you like?
If I like to lay the points with number 1 seeds, I almost always do it in the first half, because what I worry is they're winning by 30 at half, and they basically say the second half, let's just make sure we don't get any injuries before we take on the 8-9 winner in a day, with a day rest in between. I'm going to go back to that same principle that I've done for probably 2 decades now. If I like a number 1 seed, I'm taking them in the first half. I like number 1 seed. I'm taking Duke minus the points. It's been a great year as far as coming from nowhere, really, from Siena. But I think Coach McNamara might be the next coach of Syracuse. I hope for his sake. But I don't think they have enough horses to stay with this Duke team. Duke's defense is elite. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on all the great content we have here at Doc Sports. Next game we have here, we have the number 5 seed Vandy taking on McNeese State. Total 150.5. Vandy favored by 11.5. No Will Wade, but it did not matter this year. McNeese State was best team in the conference all year long for the 3rd straight year. What do you like?
Vanderbilt is a team coached by Mark Byington, who came over from James Madison, who continues to produce great coaches. He had them at 20 wins last year, now 26 wins this year. Losing to Arkansas in the SEC title game is nothing to shy at. That's pretty darn good. This is a team that had no issues blowing out teams like Eastern Kentucky, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Now they face McNeese. McNeese is coached by Bill Armstrong, who's in his first year, who did great, 28-5 out of the gates. It's a team that beat George Washington this year, only lost to Santa Clara, a top 40 team, by 8. Lost to Michigan by about 40, though. And they come into this contest. Look, this total came in about 150.5, and it came in I thought it came in a little bit low, actually. I actually liked the over when it first came out. But it's pretty simple here. Look, I have nothing against McNeese State. They're a very, very good team. This is a squad. But I put Vandy just below the echelon of Michigan. So if you can lose to Santa Clara by 8, to me, it's not unreasonable to see Vanderbilt kind of locked down here. It's a team that beat Florida as well. And especially, remember, this is Mark Byington's first, this is a team that was a 10 seed against St. Mary's last year, and they lost 59-56. They closed out the year losing 4 straight. He still hasn't won a tournament dance game with Vandy yet, and I think that changes here. Give me Vandy minus the 11.5. All right, Craig, let's talk about North Dakota State facing Michigan State here. North Dakota State 27-7, Michigan State 25-7. Michigan State coming in as a 16.5-point favorite. What do you like?
Yeah, I don't think this is the most talented Michigan State team they've had, especially in the last probably 5 or 6 years. But, man, he got everything out of them, and that's just great coach. He just pulled all the right strings all year long. Now, they did fall, a couple times to their rivals. So I'm sure he wished they played a little better against Michigan. I think that just shows you when they're just a little like a notch below. And it's not a knock on Michigan State. They're just a notch below athletically some of the best teams out there. I think they're in that. There's about 6 teams, I think, to win it all this year. They're in that next 6 or 7. I think that means they're going to struggle here to cover this big number. Are they going to win? Yes, I do think they'll win. I just don't. I think North Dakota State, they've been the best team all year in the Summit League, finished first, ran through, won the tournament. So I like to see that so you don't see upsets. I think they have enough to keep this within like 10, 11 points. You might have to get a backdoor cover late, but that happens all the time in tournaments. 16.5 is a lot of points for a Michigan State team that's not elite when it comes to scoring. So next game we have here, we go to Hawaii and Arkansas. And for people that want to get more, we both covered this game as an individual breakdown, but we're going to give it to you in this rundown as well. Arkansas favored by 15.5, total 160, 425 game, Eastern Standard Time start. What do you like?
People assume that this is going to be a very high-paced game. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think you're going to see a Hawaii team that rolls in who's a top 50 defense, and I think Arkansas is going to have a little bit of a letdown after that SEC win. And it's an Arkansas team that or Hawaii team that held Oregon to 60 points early this year, or held Arizona to 70 or 83 points, which doesn't seem great. But as the season picked up, they played pretty darn good defense, including giving up 63 and 64 points, including 64 against UC Irvine, is a very good team. Arkansas, of course, I think Arkansas, frankly, is going to come out a little bit flat here. And I think this game will go in the pace of Hawaii for the most of the game. I'm not going to mess with the side as much, although I do think Hawaii is going to cover this game. But I like the under 160 between these two teams. Craig, VCU and North Carolina hooking up here. The 11 seed facing the 6 seed. this could be a tough game. UNC is only a 2.5-point favorite. Complete disrespect for UNC, in my opinion. You have a UNC team that it was a top 30 team, but lost to Duke and Clemson their last two games. VCU, of course, rolls in, beating Dayton, St. Joseph's, and Duquesne, rolling in. Who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, UNC's only this low of a seed. They should probably be a 4 seed, in my opinion, because the loss of Caleb Wilson. But since they've lost them, they've only lost like 6-3, 6-2, something like that. So they played really good, and the losses are to teams that you would expect that I think they might have lost to anyway. Maybe been a little closer, but now VCU out of the A10. I think the A10 got total disrespect, to be honest. I thought St. Louis didn't get much respect. I don't think VCU. I wish Caleb Wilson was here because you probably get 8-9 points here, and then I would probably say VCU. At this low number, though, this is the big guy for North Carolina. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he is going to be a handful for VCU. I think he's going to be the difference. I'm going to small lean on UNC minus the points in this one. Next game, number 1 seed Michigan, 31.5-point favorites versus Howard here. Howard won the play-in game on Tuesday against UMBC. Total 151.5. What do you like?
But I will tell you that Michigan is a squad, obviously coached by Dusty May. He had him as a 5 seed last year, and they only beat UC San Diego by 3 last year before crashing out against Auburn. Michigan's a really good team, man. They're just a really good team. The question simply here is, though, how do they go against the top 200 team? They only faced a team like, for example, when they faced Middle Tennessee early this year, they beat them by 27. When they faced LaSalle, who's a top 225 team, they beat them by 52. I don't think this is going to be close at all, man. I think Michigan, I'm not going to lay this many points personally, but Howard lost earlier this year by 21 to Missouri. It's a team that lost to Duke by about 37 points as well. So that's about right. And I think Michigan is probably going to roll here, winning by 35 or more. So I'm going to lay it with Michigan. All right, Craig, Texas here on the road against BYU. This might be my premium selection tomorrow. Texas 11 seed facing a 6 seed here. BYU coming in as a 2.5-point chalk. Texas, of course, winning the play-in game against NC State. But for BYU, they're a pretty good team, right? Top 10 offense, top 60 defense, losing to Houston, but they did beat Kansas State and West Virginia coming in. But they have lost about 4 out of the last 6. Texas, of course, did lose about 5 out of the last 6 before beating NC State in the dance. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the bottom of the SEC got overrated to me. I didn't think these all should be in, but wasn't the greatest year for the non-conference from the non-power teams, to be honest. So there wasn't a whole lot of teams pushing them. Nice win against NC State. Last second shot by Texas won that one. Texas kind of dominated the entire game, so it was good that they won. The teams that have won these play-in teams, the 10 and 11 seeds that have won and then went on play with just a day rest, have done very well historically since we've added this the play-in games. And I think it's another game. The reason why BYU struggled, DeBonce has been unbelievable. He's going to be the number 1 or 2 pick in the draft, most likely. But his best running mate, Saunders, has went down with injury. That's their best shooter. It's really made it hard for BYU to keep up with teams. I like the under, and I like Texas. I think I'll take Texas as the higher play, though. All right, next game here. We kind of moved to the afternoon slot here. 7:10 game. 7:35 game. Texas A&M and St. Mary's here. St. Mary's favored by 3.5, total 147. I know a lot of people in this industry, not just me and IC, just talking to each other all the time, not just here at Doc Sports, a lot of guys. And a lot of people are real high on St. Mary's, a lot of people real low on St. Mary's. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say here, IC.
And, you have to take a look at Texas A&M first, obviously coached by Bucky McMillan, right? He came over from Samford. This is his first year with A&M, so he's got a lot of motivation to do well. They crashed out in the SEC tournament, losing to Oklahoma by 20. But they did beat Kentucky, and they lost to my Alabama by 3 points. They did beat Texas on the road early this year, who's a tournament team. And they beat the snot out of Florida State, but that was early in the year before Florida State sort of figured it out. St. Mary's, of course, comes in losing to Vandy by about 25 points. And it's a team that lost to Gonzaga by 8, but I'm not high on Gonzaga this year. They lost to Santa Clara to open up as well. They also beat Gonzaga by 11 this year as well. But when you look at the level of competition in which Texas A&M has faced all year long, it's a team that's got a couple of juniors and a couple of seniors. And St. Mary's, of course, is still a very young team led by sort of 3 sophomores. Bucky McMillan, first-year coach from Samford, first year crack at this. It's a team that at the end of the day, has played the likes of Florida and Vanderbilt and Arkansas and Texas, and did beat Kentucky and crashed out so badly against Oklahoma, losing 63-83. I believe he will have his attention there, and I'm going to take the points here in what could be a toss-up game. I'm going to take the 3.5 with A&M. All right, Craig, let's move on here. With Pennsylvania hooking up against Illinois. Pennsylvania comes in, as a 24.5 point dog. I was high on Pennsylvania. I predicted Pennsylvania actually as a 10-point dog to beat Yale. People thought I was nuts, and I wasn't. That's what they did. They are coached by Coach McCaffrey right now. I believe Coach McCaffrey's now led, unbelievably, believe it or not, he has now led UNC Greensboro to the dance, Siena to the dance, Iowa to the dance, and now Penn to the dance. How many coaches do you know has led 4 teams to the dance? And now he's taking his alma mater back to the dance here, beating Harvard and Yale. Illinois, of course, comes in, losing to Wisconsin in the opening round, which is not good, but they are a top 5 offense. Illinois, of course, was a 6 seed last year and lost in the second round to Kentucky. Who do you like?
What I like here is Illinois to win for sure. But when you're looking at the spread, these really, really big numbers that we see from the 1, 2, 3 seeds, even the 4 seeds at times, can be real dangerous because you start looking early in the year and you're like, oh, Illinois just murdered teams that are in this level of Penn's competition all year. But that's a long time ago. Like Illinois is a much different team, and so are all those teams they played. And Penn just continued to get better. Coach McCaffrey did a great job to kind of just methodically going through and improving this team throughout the year. Kind of miraculous that they got in because they were down, 4, 5, 6 points with back-to-back threes to force overtime and 1 in the overtime. I do think you take Penn plus the points, but, man, it's going to be a small play for me because Illinois does have big-time scoring, and that might just end up overwhelming Penn. But I'm taking Penn. I think it's a good story here, and I'm willing to root for the big underdog here, Ivy League underdog. I will say the Ivy League has not done great in recent years. We all remember the Yale team that does well, the Princeton teams way back in the day. That's been a long time if you start to look back. FYI. St. Louis and Georgia here. St. Louis getting disrespected, I think. I thought St. Louis deserved to be better than the 9 seed. I thought they were more like a 7 seed, but Georgia's 8 seed, St. Louis 9. Georgia's favored by 2.5, total 169. What do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Georgia being favored is, not too much of a surprise given the SEC homerism as well. But I felt like St. Louis got a little disrespected too. And by the way, it is hard for those Ivy League type teams to do well now because of NIL, et cetera, and people getting poached. But look, you have a Georgia team that lost the opening round against Ole Miss. That's why they're going to be mad. And you can't take away Georgia's wins against Texas and Kentucky and Alabama. 3 tournament teams as well coming in and losing to Ole Miss. And Ole Miss lost in the opening round of the tournament. It wasn't a bad loss because Ole Miss obviously, look how far they made it in the SEC tournament. By the way, this team also beat Arkansas as well. And they beat Cincinnati and they beat Xavier. So they're a pretty good team, Georgia is. Now, St. Louis comes in. They didn't close the year out really well. They were red hot for the longest time. Their only loss was in Stanford. I mean, they had won a ridiculous number of games. But then people started figuring them out a little bit. They lost to Dayton twice to close out the year, which isn't good. They lost to George Mason. They lost to Rhode Island. Look, I got nothing against St. Louis. I think they're a very good team, but they're outside the top 230 in turnover margin. Their coach, they're still a pretty young team, coached by John Schertz. I still think they're a little bit out. Georgia is coached by Mike White. He's finally in the dance. It's his 4th year. It's his 4th year in Georgia, and they were in the dance last year, but they lost, first round to Gonzaga as well. They were not in the dance the year before. I think Georgia's going to be very motivated. Give me Georgia on the money line here. All right, Craig, let's talk about Kennesaw State hooking up against Gonzaga, 21-13, facing a 30-3 team here. What do you like? Oh, lost you.
We did a full breakdown on this game, so make sure you check it out. We both gave what we like side and total. But I can tell you, I like the total in that one, so you don't have to look at mine. You can just get IC's opinion on this one. But I like the under here. This Gonzaga team has been a very good team to the under. This is not the Mark Few teams back in the early 2000s that would run up and down and try to outscore people. This is a team that punishes inside. They play at a much slower pace. I like the under 154.5. I don't think either team gets above 75 points. So I was thinking like 75-65 win by Gonzaga. Next and last game, Idaho and Houston. Houston's favored by 23.5, total 137.5. I think Houston's a for real team to win it all this year again. What do you like here?
Idaho is a team that's a top 65 tournament margin team. They did beat Washington State. They only had 14 wins last year, so they played great this year. But they're led by a couple of seniors. Houston, of course, rolls in, coached by Kelvin Sampson. This is a team that went really far last year. If you remember, they went to the title game and they ended up losing to Florida in a game they really, really should have won, and they didn't. And they beat some monsters coming into that game. They beat Gonzaga, they beat Purdue, they beat Tennessee, they beat Duke before ending up losing. Look, this is a team that lost 79-74 against Arizona. They had won about 5 of 6 coming in as well. What you really got to look at more is the total on this contest. The total comes in around 138.5, and it really just depends on, how much Idaho can put up a fight here. Idaho, when they face elite teams, they have a tendency to struggle, right? They lost to Notre Dame 80-65. So I think what probably happens here is you're going to see a team that's really going to struggle against an elite Houston defense. But I'm going to take the under here. I think Houston absolutely clamps down on this team on the defensive side of the ball, and I think this is going to be I think Houston has the ability. Remember, look, when Houston faces teams outside of the top 150, they can absolutely clamp you down. They held New Orleans to 57 points, right? They held Townsend to 48 points. Give me the under.
Oh, that's what we like for today. Don't forget, if you want to get on our best deals, just say, which one of these are your favorite plays? We got it simple. I'm going to have a 3-pack for both Thursday and Friday. IC will have a top play for Thursday and Friday. Plus, of course, you get Saturday, Sunday. And then you get all the days. It's a week plays right here, week pass, $99. And you will give you the NBA bonus plays for today as well. So you can't beat that. That's a $260 value. Text your name to my number right here, 574-333-8717. I'll text you back the exclusive link to get in. And then once you get in, I'll send you the NBA. Let's go. Let's win big together.